Good evening and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall, joined once again by Mr. Johnny Bisbee. We are all warm out here. It is sweaty. It is hot in London. I know it is for most of the country as well. But also what's hot is the NFL right now because we've just had the first weekend of the preseason games. It was really cool to see some of the rookies and the new players that are on the new teams. Obviously, it's a little bit. I don't really enjoy preseason, Johnny. I'm going to be honest. It's just like watered down American football for me. Do you take much stock in it? I mean, for me, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks, obviously, for the rookie quarterbacks. And I think there is notable things, but I don't particularly watch the whole games. What about you? Are you really into it? Do you think? Are you into watching the Jets whole preseason?
It certainly isn't the full Monty that the NFL for 17 weeks becomes, but it's just great to see, football back and the league as we are heating up again. Really good to see the rookie quarterbacks who we've been talking about all summer all get reps, and I think for the large part all in their small, cameo appearances seem to hold their own and impress their respective fan bases. I'm sure there's some more happy than others, but yeah, really good to see that football's back, and looking forward to the next few weeks as we build up to the new season.
Even though I might not take much stock in it, obviously many fans do, and I'll be sort of doing it from the point of view of them fans as well, because there's going to be a lot of players that were under the microscope over the weekend. And we'd like to also congratulate Charlie Smythe for his kicking the field goal to win the game for the New Orleans Saints, the Irish kicker. Very good to see players on the international pathway and the UK Ireland players getting a show out. Lewis Rees-Zammit also got a show out of Wales, a former rugby union player who everyone's been watching very closely. So it's really great to see our international players taking centre stage for these NFL games. It's such good fun. Long may it continue, and long may more players come to fruition. And we're going to focus on 4 of the rookie quarterbacks in this episode. It's going to be Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears, Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos, JJ McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings, and Michael Penix of the Atlanta Falcons. Though Jaden Daniels of Washington Commanders and Drake May for the New England Patriots did play, we didn't get a massive look at them. I know we didn't get loads out of these 4 guys, even we've got a lot more than we did from the other guys. So we're going to sort of focus on them to begin with. Obviously, JJ McCarthy, we'll talk about him. Unfortunately, it's come out in the last 10 minutes that he's going to be undergoing some surgery. He's torn his right meniscus. Return time is not been announced just yet. If that comes out during the show, then we will obviously talk about that. But at the minute, they thought it was just sort of a tear. Sort of just maybe strained that he's now torn it. So he's definitely out week 1. That's definitely going to happen. But we'll still talk about him anyway because he's still got a long future at the Minnesota Vikings. But Johnny, we'll start with Caleb Williams to begin with. First, he was the first pick, obviously, in the draft this year. They beat the Buffalo Bills 33-6. What I like about this is we've already had the first episode of Hard Knock come out as well, so we're seeing a bit more of Caleb Williams than we're seeing any other of the rookie quarterbacks. I mean, 4 for 7, 95 yards, no touchdowns, but 13 rushing yards. A lot of expectation on this guy's shoulders, John. Do you think he sort of delivered?
Yeah, absolutely. I think by far the most lofty expectations of any quarterback in this group, because he went first overall. The Bears have been longing for a franchise quarterback for so long. I think over the weekend, in the small chunk that we saw of him, we saw that he probably looked the best of the group. I think, his what comes across, I think, for me is his physicality and his athleticism when you compare that to Justin Fields and Mitch Trubisky, who coincidentally was playing against him. I feel Williams just has the look of a real franchise quarterback for Chicago. Not least as well that Chicago have on all after to put an offense that is capable of winning a lot of football games with quality all over the field. We saw a bit of that. DeAndre Swift had a big play. I think DJ Moore as well came in. Obviously, he's been around for a few years now. But things seem to be really clicking. And, I think as the preseason goes on, and obviously, start the season in September, we'll see a lot more of Caleb Williams. But at the moment, I think people will be, very happy. And I think Bears fans, that perception of this guy being a generational talent have really been enforced. He's going to be someone who, a lot of people are going to really, really enjoy watching as this season and his career unfolds.
I am going to have to admit, I watched the first episode of Hard Knocks, and if Andrew and Adam were here, obviously being big college guys, they would probably say that everything he did in this game is what they completely expected of Caleb, and how he was on Hard Knocks is completely what they expected. I have fell in love with this guy. I really think he's got something. I really think he has. I think he carries himself very well. Hard Knocks, we do have to remember, will paint things in certain lights. This is
Absolutely.
not sort of unbiased media by any stretch of the imagination. It is very much putting a pedestal, putting these players on pedestals and painting them in a very good light. We're not going to see exactly loads of negatives. However, players have been criticised when being on Hard Knocks in the last few years. But I just ultimately, I really liked him. He seems like a great professional, a leader. There was, some people were doubting him because of his extravagant behavior. Well, if you call extravagant behavior painting your nails and having a bit of a goofy phone case, then that's extravagant behavior. I don't know what, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that was going to affect anything to do on the football field. It doesn't matter what that pertains to or what anything in that shed of light. This guy is a true professional, a true leader, and I think he's going to do great things for Chicago. I think he looked really composed in the pocket, really good on the run. We got to see the slide. They also did the water slide stuff in Hard Knocks, which if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's a really good episode, and it's going to, obviously, I think it's about 6 episodes, so there's lots to come of that. And he's also got that swag. I saw him do that slide, and he sort of did that whole first down hand gesture, and I just thought, this guy's not lacking in confidence. This guy knows exactly what he's about, and we talked about it in the previous episode. The offense for this team really. This looks like a real offense, doesn't it now, Johnny? I mean, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet. This feels like really this could be the start of something really, really big for Chicago. And I think this is exactly how they felt when Justin Fields came in, and it's just not really worked out. But I think this is totally different with Caleb, isn't it?
Yeah, I really hope so as well. And just to touch on your points about, Hard Knocks, I've watched clips here and there of the show this year, and while I think there have been outcries on Twitter for some of the characteristics that Caleb Williams may have shown, I don't think it's particularly relevant at this stage. I think we're judging this player on being a franchise quarterback, and we can only judge him when the season really starts. I think he will completely transform the way the Bears play. I think this is the centerpiece of what they've been missing is a competent quarterback. Justin Fields, I think, showed signs, but ultimately, I think Caleb Williams is going to be light years ahead of Fields, the now Steelers QB. Really excited to see what the Bears can do. We are putting a lot of pressure on Williams and the Bears to hit the ground running this year, which perhaps I think in 6 months' time we may look back in hindsight if they fail to make the playoffs or don't necessarily go as far as we expected them in year one. But I think all the signs are pointing towards this being a successful year, and I think success is building on that in the next couple of years. So I think we have to be realistic, but yeah, all the signs are there for the Bears to succeed. If not this year, then definitely in the next few years to come with the new quarterback.
Well done, Shearer. Say pressures for tyres, and I thought your first time out in front of the Bears fans, first game, first time in the NFL. I didn't think he looked pressured at all. I thought he looked really calm, he knew exactly what he was doing. Even when he was coming out of the pocket, even when there was pressure on him, it looked like he knew what he was doing. I mean, a lot of people compared him to being the next Mahomes. Obviously, that is a very high pedestal to be on. I think he made some movement like Mahomes. I think he's very Mahomes-esque in some of the style he has. But like I do feel about all the preseason, let's wait till December when it gets real cold and it's the Packers coming into your place, or the Lions, or the Vikings, a divisional rival. When push comes to shove, can you really perform? That's going to be the measuring stick for Caleb Williams. I think he can rise to occasion. I really think he do, but I do agree with you, Johnny. But hopefully the pressure isn't so much this season. I think it's this season is just like, let's just get him comfortable. Let's get him in this offense. Let's get him really connecting with the head coach and the players, and then. Okay, we may miss the playoff. We may not even get a great record, but if we can see the signs, you can lose in the right way, can't you? You can win in the wrong way, and you can lose in the right way. I'd say the Steelers have won in the wrong way a few times in the last 2 seasons, whereas the Bears, they could lose this year and be on a losing record. But if they lose in the right way, there is positivity going forward. And I think that's really important for Caleb moving forward. So very interested to see how it goes. We will go on to Bo Nix, who was the 12th pick by the Denver Broncos, beating the Colts 34-30. He was 15 for 21 on the day, 125 yards and a touchdown, 17 rushing yards for the young QB. Denver seriously wanting this next quarterback, Bo Nix, to be the answer. Just sort of hoping that Sean Payton can really get to grips with a young guy here at the position, and can really mold him and shape him into an amazing QB like he did with Drew Brees. And there's been a lot of similarities between Bo Nix and Drew Brees. What was your first impression of him for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, he was probably the most productive quarterback once he got on the field this weekend. And I think he was very efficient, and he earned a lot of praise from his coach. After the game. So, this is a real opportunity for the Broncos, and I really hope that they, don't get blurred vision by potentially starting Jarrett Stidham over Nix, because he probably is. I think Andrew and Adam, obviously follow college football a lot more than us, and have said that Nix, I think, is one of the probably more ready quarterbacks at the moment. May not, obviously necessarily have the ceiling of the others, but I think it's a real opportunity for the player to grasp. I just hope that the Broncos team, the weapons around him, can really just hold up and support the quarterback. I think that's the pressure on. Obviously, we've talked about the Bears and their situations. My Jets team have been terrible at helping quarterbacks develop, and I just worry that potentially the Broncos may slip into that category after a difficult couple of years. But from what we saw of Bo Nix, he I think Broncos fans will be fairly happy of what they saw. I think he orchestrated 4 scoring drives. So I think a really good start and something for the young QB to build on.
It's so interesting you say about the offense, because I've got one of his downsides might be that this offense is just not good enough. The surrounding cast is just not good enough for him. I felt like there was a few plays that it looked like that. But I was quite impressed. I mean, he threw a few risky throws, I thought, but really threaded the needle really well, and showed off his arm strength. He showed elements of rookies. He showed rookie elements like that, which he's going to. I don't think that's not in a negative sense. I think that they are all going to show rookie elements at times, and it is better to really show these rookie elements in these style of games. For them to then develop even more and to move on into the future and into the rest of the NFL season. Better to iron out the creases now than week 10. If they can really get that started on the front foot. Peyton's already seen him, obviously, in training. Now he's seen him in a live game situation for the Broncos. Obviously, he saw him in live game situations in college. And now they can really start to hone in on these skills. He looked really comfortable running as well. I thought it would be very interesting to see him in a meaningful game, because I paint it as threw some risky throws, but threaded the needle and looked like he was very direct with the target and looked really precise, and his precision looked pretty good. In meaningful games, I think the coverage may be tighter. There'll be more pressure in his face. I don't know whether his decision-making will be as equal. It won't be as equal as it is to now. He's got a little bit more time, whether it be a second or 2 seconds to 4 seconds longer in the situations that he has in preseason, in comparison to what will happen in a meaningful game. You said about his development. I mean, isn't this why Sean Payton has been brought in? Is because they know that he can develop a quarterback.
I absolutely agree. I think, Sean Payton will manage this very wisely, and I can see him, keeping the Knicks sort of hype train going, because I think for him to be put in these situations straight away, these tough decisions, particularly for a team that has been under the spotlight a lot for its decision making in recent years. I can see Bo Nix being backed by, obviously already by his coach, and his teams as well. So really want to see Bo Nix start the season ahead of Stidham and Zach Wilson, because they've obviously invested a lot into this pick. I think it took quite a few people by surprise how high Nix was taken, but the Broncos have been after a capable quarterback, and I think what we saw, in the brief, all these quarterbacks, these are only brief snippets of what could become this season. But I think it did show that he has, a strong grasp on the Payton offense in Denver, and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't start their season opener in early September.
I agree. I would really like to see him start. Definitely over Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham. I think Stidham's capable. I think now's the hot. I think we've got to see him in his next two games in the preseason. Like I said, I think there's more creases to iron out, but I'm really excited to see him moving forward. A lot more excited than I thought I was going to be, if that makes sense. I really didn't think Bo would necessarily have a wow factor to him, but I was pleasantly surprised at how capable he was when I've watched the highlights and the throws that he was making. We'll move on to JJ McCarthy, who was the 10th pick by the Minnesota Vikings. They beat the Raiders 24-23, 11-17, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception though, 18 rushing yards. Again, very sad to hear that he's torn his meniscus. Again, we don't know his timeline of injury. I think we should talk about this like he hasn't got the injury. But obviously not say he's going to start week 1. But we need to sort of look at Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy on the grander scale of the Vikings franchise, rather than just going into the first week and going into this season. So what did you make out of him in this game against the Raiders?
I thought it was a really strong showing. I think stats-wise, if you look at it, 11-17, throwing through 188 yards, and two touchdown passes is a brilliant first starter for another quarterback who I think we all expected the Vikings to take him, but there's been question marks, I think, on whether his ceiling or his potential eliteness is really there. Really impressed. I think if you watch the game as well, he threw some really nice long passes. And again, was really good with his legs, which was really good to see. It's obviously we don't want to talk about his injury, but it's such a shame, because this is a player who's in a perfect opportunity to develop. He's got 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL working alongside him, a great tight end, a very decent offensive line, which is it's got a couple of studs in there. A really good opportunity for a young quarterback to come in and develop. So really disappointed to hear, and we obviously wish him all the best in his recovery. But what an opportunity for Sam Darnold, if we're going to talk about it. Coming in as a Jets fan, I don't know, mixed feelings about when he left the Jets. I think if he's given the opportunity, he could, show signs of, potentially get his career back on track. I think this is a really good opening for a quarterback who's got a bit of a point to prove because of what's surrounding the coaching setup. We know, really strong. I think McCarthy, whether or not he plays this year now, I still think he'll have a very good career if he can, come back healthy and hit the ground running.
Well, as per Adam Schefter, and this was admittedly about 15 minutes ago, a key part about JJ McCarthy's knee surgery, a decision will be made at the time of his operation about whether his meniscus requires a trimming or a complete repair, which will determine the length of his recovery. There are two different timelines. I don't think it's season ending. It doesn't seem that way, but I don't think he's going to be ready for week one. This could be, if they get the surgery done tomorrow or the next day, I think from the sounds of it, it's looking more like maybe he'll be available by week 3. But again, recovery time. We've got to see his recovery time on that. So hopefully we're going to see more of JJ McCarthy than we maybe thought initially with this injury. I was mega impressed. I actually weirdly was quite impressed by Darnold in this game as well. And I was like, if there was ever a time where I didn't want to be impressed by Darnold, I sort of did want it to be now because I really wanted, because I was so impressed by JJ McCarthy. I know he's come from a very run offense, a very run-first offense in Michigan. Harbaugh runs that, and though I don't think people doubt his arm, they just know that he hasn't been much of a thrower in the college game. And so there is doubts about his arm. I don't think there's huge doubts, but there is doubts. I think he really put some of that to bed yesterday. I know it was a bit of scheming. I felt like a lot of the offense was schemed very well. The receivers seemed to be out in very wide open spaces. They seemed to be out, and the Raiders secondary didn't seem to be able to be clicking with marking the Vikings wide receivers. So there was sort of a very easy throw, so to speak. But I thought he looked good out of the pocket. He looked decent under pressure. It was a really impressive first touchdown, though the separation was there. The second one, I think, was an impressive throw, but there was a lot of separation. There was a very easy throw to make for that touchdown. He also got the interception on his first drive, and he seemed to be able to shrug that off quite well.
Yeah,
and be able to perform after that. I mean, it can be really difficult to shrug them off sometimes, and that sort of probably shows something about his character. Something that I don't think really anyone. I mean, some people said that he was very much an ultimate teamsman at Michigan, and that it didn't matter about it was we over me. It wasn't about me getting all the yards or the touchdowns for the team. It was about us winning the championship and going all the way, and that he did. So I worry. The only thing I worry about the interception is it felt like he was forcing a bigger play, and that's what worries me maybe when he is in the main NFL is the better corners are going to be out there, the better secondaries, the better linebackers, the better safeties. You're going to get more pressure. If he forces the big play, okay, he's going to have a better receiver on the end of it in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who didn't. I think he saw a limited amount of game time. Jefferson didn't take the field, from what I recall. Am I right in that? I feel like I saw him on the sideline, but I'm not sure if he did take the field in the end. Which is happens in preseason anyway. So that is my only worries of it. Maybe he will try and force the big play. But I like it. I really like it. I think, it's worrying about this injury. The timeline, I hope, will be small. I think from the sounds of it, from the rumblings on Twitter, it's going to be 4 weeks, maybe 6. There's what two, what we got now? 3.5 weeks till the season starts. I think we're looking at him coming back for game 4, at least being on the bench, maybe. But if Darnold really impresses in them first 4 weeks, it may be that he doesn't slot in straight away. Do you think there is a worry of that, Johnny, with Darnold starting now the season, even though Darnold may have been starting anyway?
No, I think we'd be putting these franchises are putting rookie quarterbacks in to help them develop, and obviously Sam Darnold has perhaps not shown his greatness, but he's obviously a fairly capable NFL quarterback. So I don't see the issue with that. I really hope with going back to the injury for McCarthy and any sort of timescales. The worry is obviously if he comes back too early, this could be a really difficult situation for the Vikings to manage. Obviously knee meniscus operations. I've not really got a clue about the timescales or the surgery and rehab or anything like that. But it sounds fairly serious, and even if he can get back by week 4, I hope that they're not just doing that to put him in a position to develop. Now this isn't me being an advocate for Sam Darnold. I really want to see McCarthy develop, but Darnold has an opportunity to showcase to another NFL franchise. He's obviously out of contract next year, that he can deliver. Perhaps is an upgrade on their starting quarterback for next year. So I think an opportunity for him. But we really want to see McCarthy back, don't we? This year, any rookie quarterback, I think, who goes that early deserves to play in their first year and show what they're all about. I think, as you've said, he seems to be a really good character, really team player, and I think that's something that Vikings fans will really value. So wish him a really speedy recovery, and hopefully we'll see him on the field very soon.
Some articles on NFL.com have started to come out of reporting more in depth about the injury, which I assume in there will give you a bit more of a timeline. We're obviously on now. I'm not going to read the article while you're talking. And so if you want to go check that out, you can go check that out if you're a worried Vikings fan, I suppose. But we wish him best of luck, and hopefully we'll get to see him fulfill a really good season. Let's move on to Michael Penix of the Atlanta Falcons, the 8th pick, the shock pick in the draft, as people sort of refer him to, I suppose. They did lose 20-13 to the Miami Dolphins. He was 9 of 16, 104 yards. The Falcons wanted to see something really special, I think. If they were going to spend the 8th pick and signed Kirk Cousins in the offseason, and you're going to spend the 8th pick on a quarterback, I think they wanted to see a bit more than maybe they got. What did you think of Penix's first showing here, John?
I thought it was quite fun. I think these games are all about in the rust off, maybe taking a chance because there's no pressure. And I think Penix, did that quite a bit, as he, I think, delivered in his college days. I think he threw a really nice pass in really early in the first half. There were times, obviously, where I think he was a bit erratic and looked a little bit lost, but I'll take time. I really like Penix. Obviously, not sure that the really early draft pick, considering the quarterback who starting for the Falcons this year justifies this selection. But I trying to look at it with a glass half full. I think it is there's so much pressure, I think, on this pick because of how early he went, and he might not start an NFL game for 2, maybe even 3 years. Though I think with someone like Jordan Love, we want to see as much as possible. I think the mistakes will make up for themselves in the long run. But I think Falcons fans, I don't know how they're feeling, watching something like that. Are they excited? Are they disappointed? They even care because they know that he probably won't be playing much this year. Interesting one, but I thought he was quite a fun watch in the highlights, particularly.
I think they care. They certainly care. They want to see something here because they spent their 8th pick when they could have got an edge rusher on a quarterback. I'm going to look at it half glass empty, actually. I did not think he did very well. I thought out of all 4, I thought he was the poorest. I admittedly only watched the highlights. And when I say the highlights, I watched all of his throws. So I saw the plays that he did, all of them. I didn't see the whole Falcons game, admittedly. He fumbled on his first drive, and he did bounce back from that, admittedly. And he can really throw the ball. Maybe it's just because I'm being picky. I think he throws the ball when he's forcing the ball really strangely. He looks like it looks sort of weird compared to other quarterbacks. I don't know. Maybe I was just being a little bit too particular on that. And it does make me feel like maybe I'm just hitting on Penix here. I did not think he played that great. I think he forced the ball a lot. I will admit the offense did not complement him at all. He put some balls in good areas, and the offense were not doing well for him. They didn't look good when he was throwing the ball to him. There was some timing issues. I didn't see it there. I thought that JJ, Caleb, and Bo all had a bit of wow factor. I did not see the wow factor with Penix. I really didn't. It's not to say that he's going to have a good career. And actually, Penix has been the one that I've been very excited about to see, because Adam and Andrew have gone on about how good he is and how he would be a real steal for a team to take him down the board. He didn't go down the board. He went really high, really early. And now I don't know. I think a lot of Falcons fans are maybe going to be questioning why they took him now with Kirk going to play. I know he's only got. I know it's a 3 or 4 year deal, but it can be a 2-year deal with all the movement around. It does not. It doesn't look good. Well, it doesn't look good to me. That's not true. He didn't look good enough, I thought, for warranting the pick. Maybe that is a bad decision from my part in terms of I'm just judging him on the pick when I shouldn't be, which is true. But I think when you look, we're talking about the other guys. This did not wow me at all.
I think that's a fair point. I think if you look at the other quarterbacks in the game on the Falcons team, I think Heineke and Nathan Rourke went for I think only completed 7 passes between them for just under 50 yards. So I don't know. I always take these games with a bit of a pinch of salt as well, because they don't really matter. They're obviously great opportunities for young players to come in and potentially showcase why they should be playing this year. But I think it's really difficult, isn't it, for Penix, because his pick was so controversial, and that's no judgment I think on the player, but we'll always have that in the back of our mind about how high he went, the craziness of the situation as well, for him to go to the Falcons. But yeah, let's see what he can do in his career. But yeah, I thought it was an okay start for him. We'll see what we can do next week.
We shall see indeed. Little update on the Steelers. Brandon Ayuk, 49ers trade. Apparently they are nearly finalising it. It's very, very close. So we'll see how that happens. I hope you've been enjoying the show, and I hope you follow us on all social media platforms. We are still looking for people to partner with and sponsorship and stuff like that. So if that'd be something you'd be interested in with us, we would love to have dialect about that. So hit us up a DM or an email. That'd be fantastic. You can find all our details on our social media. Let's move on to Hassan Reddick, because he is a player at your team, Johnny. Well, at the minute, is a player on your team. It's come out it came out yesterday that he has requested a trade from the Jets. He was traded from the Philadelphia Eagles in April for a conditional 6th round pick. He joined he was out of contract. Eagles weren't going to renew his contract, give him the big money. He joined Jets, got traded to the Jets, I think, in the vain hope that he would then get the contract, they would resign. They've really not been able to work it out, so he's now requested a trade. It's been a bit of a saga throughout the last few months. He was drafted in 2017 by the Arizona Cardinals, played on the Carolina Panthers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and obviously has landed on the Jets. A career of 69 tackles for loss, 58 sacks, 16 forced fumbles, 99 quarterback hits, 2-time Pro Bowler. Obviously a player at your team, Johnny. It's been a huge breakdown. We thought the Jets' drama of this franchise was put behind them, a new era for the New York Jets, and yet these sort of things are happening. What's going on over there with your New York Jets and Hassan Reddick?
Yeah, another crazy situation, unfortunately, for the Jets, and I think that all parties seem to be, at fault here. I think what seems to be a lack or really poor communication that, Reddick was brought to the Jets with, what he thought he was going to receive, an extension. There's rumours that the Jets even offered him a pay rise, which he turned down. And the Jets just haven't been able to solve it. And it makes me really, really nervous for the new season, particularly because, if you look at our side and our edge rush at the moment, we're really, really light. We obviously lost Bryce Huff, who went in the opposite direction to the Philadelphia Eagles in free agency. Now, I think is earning more money than Hassan Reddick is on now. So, I think he ranks 4th. Reddick ranks 4th in the last 3 years, I think, for sacks. I think he more than deserves, a bit of a pay rise. He's I think the 19th best paid edge rusher in the league at the moment. But the market, I think, has shown this offseason that it's not there for him. Whether that is his age, concerns perhaps over his character, as has been laid out. So there is a part of Hassan Reddick. Well, is he even going to be moved on? So soon after coming to New York. I think, the Jets are obviously got him for a third round in 2026, which is a bit of a pittance for someone with those sort of statistics and that sort of CV. But yeah, I'm not sure that another team would come in, particularly given that Reddick's demanding what seems to be a really, really outrageous amount of money. That's information I'm going off from Jets insiders. But it's a really, really difficult situation. The Jets also lost John Franklin Myers, who's been a really good asset the last few years. Will McDonald again has struggled this year. I think the Jets are hoping he'll take a big step forward for the pass rush, but I believe he came to camp underweight, it's going to be really difficult for him to slot in as a primary rusher alongside Jermaine Johnson. So there's a lot behind the scenes, and a lot of permutations about what could happen in this situation. But it's really not looking good for the Jets or for Hassan Reddick, to be honest. I think both need each other at this stage. There's been a phrase that I've seen a lot over Twitter, is that this has to end soon in a resolution, because both the player and the team, I think the best scenario for both of them is to get this locked down. The Jets have insisted that he won't be traded, but what a crazy situation. Really disappointing to see after all the excitement with Aaron Rodgers coming back. Our defense obviously being elite, as many people call it. It's really looking quite weak without Hassan Reddick, who is now probably a crucial player for the team without having ever played a game. I think this needs to be solved really quickly. I think the Jets. I think there will be a resolution, but because it's gone on so long, I couldn't tell you when.
Well, he turns 30 in September, and he clearly is looking for that last big deal, isn't he? I mean, do you think he's worth being in that top 5 paid edge rushers in the league? I don't know what that top 5 looks like, but do you think he deserves that? Do you think he's proven to be that good?
I personally don't, but I think that's the expectation he has of himself, given that he's not been able to get a deal done. I think the Jets will have offered him, if it's true that they offered him a pay rise, they will have offered him somewhere around, him being, I don't know, at least one of the best paid pass rushers in the league. Perhaps in the top 10. Certainly not, the best paid in terms of the money that players like Nick Bosa and TJ Watt receive. But for an aging player.
Sorry to interrupt you. Because I've just got it up. So this is by total value. Admittedly, number one's Nick Bosa, obviously. Josh Hines Allen of the Jaguars is second. Brian Burns at third. He got that new contract with the Giants in the offseason in his trade. Myles Garrett at fourth. TJ Watt at fifth. Bradley Chubb at sixth. At the Dolphins, Montez Sweat at seventh. Rashawn Gary eighth. Max Crosby 9. Harold Landry 10. That's correct. Yeah, and I mean the oldest one in there is TJ Watt.
These are players who are, still developing, approaching their prime, and will be, playing their best football right in the middle of these contracts. The worry is if you pay Hassan Reddick, whether he is still, a top 5 edge rusher or, still incredibly elite, he's going to peak in the next year and perhaps in 4 or 5 years' time. Even shorter. He might not be playing at the level he has been over the last couple of years for the Eagles. So but also, like I mentioned, that there clearly isn't a market for him because of how cheaply the Jets were able to get him. So I can't see another team coming in and being able to match those salary expectations that he has of himself. So, something has to give. And I think that's something will probably come from his side. The Jets may have to overpay what they think he is worth, but they can't, allow this to carry on any longer. It's been a really, really poor distraction for, whether that be across social media or, questions during training camp, and obviously moving towards the start of the season. This is, people are calling this, a championship, or potentially, a team that can go deep in the playoffs, with Aaron Rodgers back, and to have a disgruntled player who's only been to the Jets facility once, holding out
to ask for a trade. To ask for a trade. That's the only time visit to ask for a trade.
It's a crazy situation for a franchise that's seen enough crazy situations to last a long, long time, fortunately. But
where do you think he goes if he gets traded? Who do you think's in the market for him?
I honestly can't see him, going. I think if he's obviously holding out for a new contract. Jets have insisted that they won't trade him, and I don't think they will. They won't get anything near to what they gave up for him. Okay, yes, it was a third rounder in a couple of years' time.
Isn't it a conditional sixth that can turn into a third?
I thought it was just a 2026 third. It may even be upgraded.
Let's have a look. Yeah. I've got down that he was it was conditional sixth. So it was a conditional third, and that becomes a second. Sorry, I don't know where I've got conditional sixth from. Then I'm not sure where I wrote that down. Maybe I just miswrote it. Apologies for my poor stat finding. I think the only team that may look at him because they do need it, and they probably have the money to do it, is Atlanta. I think they're the only team that I think could do something here. But I don't. Again, like you said, if the Jets are asking for a second rounder, a third round, second rounder, or third rounder for that matter, do the Falcons nibble on that?
And I think as well, do the Falcons obviously have spent a lot on Kirk Cousins? Do they have the cap to match what I think Hassan Reddick's expected to make around £14 million this year? A fair amount of money. I can imagine that obviously the Falcons have given a lot of their cap hit for this year to Kirk Cousins. Probably looking somewhere around $18 million is probably what Reddick is trying to go for. I really don't see him going anywhere else, or there being a market for someone to go and sign him this year. I think the Jets obviously won't. I don't think they won't release him.
It's a sticky situation.
They really need him. They really need him. They have got really limited options, having given up Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers. He is a player that could potentially be the difference on defense for them. Obviously, they've got great players across the team, but looking really, really, really short on edge rush, and that's something that we've not come to expect from the New York Jets. So yeah, I think Joe Douglas needs to work his magic over the next couple of days, but seemingly neither party is willing to budge at the moment. This really needs to get nipped in the bud really, really quickly. Hassan Reddick, he's racked up $1.7 million worth of fines for not showing up. It's a crazy amount of money. I think he needs that big payday just to pay that off. Really. Let's hope it gets sorted for my sake.
Yeah, for your sake and everybody else's. Thank you very much for joining me, Johnny. It was great chatting to you about the quarterbacks and Hassan Reddick, obviously very close to your team. Thank you guys for watching us live or watching us later on. make sure you check out our next division preview that will come later in the week. Not sure what side of the division we're doing. We've already done the South, so we'll see which place we go to next. Again, thank you for watching. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms and follow us on, subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you for watching. Until then, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you all again very soon.